Hi, this is Paolo, and welcome to the sixth installment of the Blender Survival Guide. So now we have a scene with a few different elements. We have this text, we have lights, we have a camera, and so on and so forth. And we just started. It's conceivable that this scene will become even more crowded, and it would be nice if we have a way of managing these objects just in a different way than by clicking on their visible portion in the window. So several programs have this tree view, and Blender is no different. Just because it's not showing it right now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have it. So let's see how we can enable this feature. So right here in this area, I have my buttons window, and I'm thinking, well, I can scroll this window easily, so I could split this window right here and dedicate a portion of it to the tree view. Let's see how it's done. If you remember from the first two lessons, we can split by simply moving the mouse carefully to the separator. And when the little grabby hand shows up, we right click and we select split area. And now we have a splitter. Now if I click with the left click of the mouse, a new separation will be created right here. But there is an additional trick. Let's say that you prefer to actually have a vertical split instead of a horizontal one. Well, instead of pressing ESC and trying to figure out the right portion of the screen where you right click to create the split, you can simply click on the middle button of the mouse, the one that has the wheel. It can be used also as a button. So you click on the middle button, and now we have a vertical splitter. And if you click again, it will switch back to the horizontal one. So easy way of deciding where to split your window. So let's do it right here. Left click. And now I can click on the menu here that decides what kind of window we can show in this area. And I select the outliner. There you go. Now we have our scene, we have our camera, font. Okay, that's the text. And we have one lamp, another lamp, and another lamp. As you see, I can simply left click on each element and it's selected in the scene. Now this introduces an interesting topic because Blender does its best to name the objects, but I like to consider this text more than font, so I'd like to change it. So how do we change the names of the objects? Because creating good names is an important step in keeping your work organized. So there are not one, not two, but at least three ways of changing the name of an object. First of all, if we go here in the buttons window and I click on the object button, here is the name of the object. So I can change it from font to text. And now you see that it's changing in the tree view, in the outliner. Now let me just press Control Z, or Command Z on the Mac actually, and undo what I just did. There is a system that I really like. Let me move a little bit the windows around. If you move the mouse in any window, and let me just, all right, change the point of view. So right now we are in the front window. If I press the letter N, this little pop-up shows up. And I really like this because here I can change the name of the object and I don't have to change my buttons here, my button window. Let's say that I was in the scene parameters. I don't need to switch back to the object parameters. I can stay here and I can change the name of my object as I select it or as I selected here. So for example, let's take a look at this from above. Okay, this is my top view. We know this is our backlight. I'd like to call it backlight instead of lamp.002. So I can just move here and use a name like spotlight. This is my convention. I prefix my lights with the type of light, SL for spotlight. So it's spotlight, backlight. And now my name appears here. So this lamp here, well, looking at the lamp from the top view, this is the left light. So SL left light. Now there is another way of changing the name, and this is something I just read in our Blender forum at Creative Cow. And it's basically by pressing the Control key and clicking on the name in the outliner. And now I can change this to be SL right light. There you go. And now I can select this and change it to text. Now we have renamed all our objects. If I want to use some typical conventions, I can change my camera to be named Cam A. Then I can have Cam B, Cam C, etc. Let's say that you want to have multiple cameras in the scene. So this little transform properties panel comes in handy because it's translucent. You can collapse it, so it stays here, and you can move around in the scene. It provides the name of the object, but it also provides some parameters. So if I move my camera, you can see the lock Z in the left side of the panel change, which is very useful in several situations. And you can type in, if I wanted to bring the camera up to 2 units, there you go. Precise location. So you can use it for many different operations, but I use it most often to change the name of the objects. So 3 ways: through the buttons window, through the transform properties, or through the outliner. Now we have the outliner here, and as we did in the first 2 lessons, I want to save my layout here. So for example, I can go to File and select the Save Default Settings, or I can simply press Ctrl U and it will say Save User Defaults. Now let me just stop at this point, okay? And let me tell you one interesting little secret. At this point, I have my scene all set up correctly. I have my outliner view here, so everything looks pretty good. If I were to save the default settings at this point, Blender would save the default to be exactly how we see it. So the next time you create a new scene, it will have a 3D text for After Effects, elements, 3 lights, and so on and so forth. So you have to be careful there, because whatever you save, whatever is loaded when you save the user preferences, that is what will be saved as your default scene. So how can we make this configuration the default for every new scene from this point on? Well, first of all, let's save this one. Okay, let's save this scene as it is now. So I can just go to File, Save, and Blender will say, okay, this is my current name. It's Survival Guide lesson _4.blend. Do you want to save over? Yes, normally that's what you want to do. Okay, so now the scene is saved. Now that's an interesting little fact. Look at this. If I hit Control X to create a new scene, Blender will say, okay, do you want to erase all? Sure, I do. Boom. We are back to the default scene with a cube and everything. And there is no division here. But look at this. If I go to File, Open Recent, and I click on Lesson 4 that we just saved, the tree view is here. So even though we didn't make that a permanent change, it shows up when we open the scene. And here is an important lesson, which is very interesting and very important. Blender will save the user interface layout together with your file. So if you have a very peculiar arrangement that is necessary to edit that scene, that animation, then you can stay assured that Blender will recover exactly the same layout the next time you open that scene, which is incredibly, incredibly convenient. But going back to our task, how can we make this window here a permanent feature of our default scene? Let's start over. Press Ctrl X. This is our default scene. So without doing anything else, we just repeat the operation, split area, split here. And we select the outliner. Perfect. That's the way we want it. And then we press Ctrl U and we save it as user defaults. Which introduces an interesting topic. Where do those defaults get saved? Let's say that tomorrow you buy a new machine, lucky you get a new faster computer, you're installing Blender, and when you launch it, it comes up with a default bland desktop, not the one that you customize. How can you carry your carefully modified Blender desktop with you? Very simple. Blender saves the configuration in a file named .B .blend. .B .blend. Why there is a dot at the beginning? Because Blender was originally developed under Unix and Mac OS. The dot, the period at the beginning of the name, is a shorthand for making that file hidden. And that way, the file is saved, but is not visible in your normal directory listing, and it's kind of protected from accidental deletions. The file is saved in your home directory. So .B .blend, that's where the configuration is saved every time you press Ctrl U. So let's go back to our scene, because this is kind of too naked for me. There you go. So there is another panel here that I like to show you that is rather important. You go in the View menu and the View Properties panel right here. This allows you to change things like if you want to see that grid floor, see this grid? Sometimes you want to get rid of it, so there you go. You press on this button and you can turn it off. 3D cursor. Let's say that you want to position the cursor at a given location, like on coordinate -2 in the X. Right now the cursor is right here. -2. Boom. It goes right there by simply typing the coordinates. So very, very, very useful. As we progress in these lessons, this menu will be even more interesting and important. You can get rid of it anytime, but this is important to know where some of those settings are controlled. And yes, we can use a background image, but this is something that we're going to see in another lesson for now. So be patient. Now it's time to see an important feature of Blender called layers. Blender, like After Effects or Photoshop, supports layers. The layers in Blender are slightly different, but the concept is the same. That is, you can have different elements in different layers and you can isolate them by simply enabling or disabling the containing layer. Where are the layers? Well, right now I'm working at pretty low resolution because of recording this tutorial. The layers are controllable through the header, and if you don't see them, just scroll the header. You middle click in a blank area of the header and scroll until you see these buttons here. Now you see the one button is pressed and there is something in it. Well, that means that we are on layer 1 and the layer is actually populated, because I could be clicking on layer 5 and everything seems to be gone away. We simply enable layer 5 alone and layer 5 has nothing, hence there is nothing in the thumbnail here. So I can just click on layer 1 again and everything is back in place. So, well, let's say that for any reason I wanted to move my backlight to layer 2, or maybe I want to keep all the lights on a separate layer so that I can work on the objects without seeing all this stuff here, okay? Which is a very common setup. So, okay, how do we do that? Very simply. I can click on my backlight. Now it's selected. And then I press M for move to another layer. M, and Blender shows me this little pop-up window that basically lists all the layers available. So I click on layer 2, I confirm with OK, and the light seems to be gone. And of course now we see the layer 2 is populated. So now I can click on layer 2. There you go. It's our backlight right there. Okay, let's go back to our layer 1. And now I'm going to click on left light, press the shift, and click on right light. Now we have both selected, and that introduces the other topic that, yes, you can shift click and select multiple objects, and yes, you can do it right here in the outliner. So now I press M again, and I click on the second layer, confirm with OK, and they're gone. And now I can go and see my lights, see just my objects with the camera. If I want, I can move the camera there too. I right-click on the camera, press M, click on layer 2, confirm, camera gone. But what if at some point I want to see all the layers at the same time? Well, the answer should be intuitive at this point. I can simply shift left click on layer 2 together when layer 1 is selected. Now we have both layers active. There is also a shortcut that is the tilde. If you press the tilde character on the keyboard, all layers are enabled automatically. So use the layers to your liking. It's a great feature. You can move things left and right with the M key. Now here is a quick tip that can save you from a heart attack. What just happened? Where did everything go? The layers are actually activated as a shortcut by simply pressing not on the numeric pad but on the numeric strip of the keyboard the corresponding numbers. So if I press 1, the first layer is enabled. If I press 2, the second layer is enabled. Well, what happens is many times you started working on a scene and everything is on layer 1 and you're typing something and all of a sudden you press 7 and you look at your screen and what the hell just happened? Where is all my stuff? Of course, if you look at your outliner here, you see that everything is there, but yeah, we are skeptical about this. We really want to see our objects, you know. I just spent 4 hours making this new scene. I want to see my objects. Well, when something suddenly disappears, just look at your layers, and the easiest possible remedy is to press tilde and everything is back in place. Life is still good. Okay, so this was kind of more of a, again, on the UI, but we cover so many new things, and it's important now we have all the tools that we need to progress to the next step. All these tips about organization and layers will come in handy with the next lessons. As usual, I hope this was useful. Remember, we have an excellent forum at Creative Cow. It's a Blender forum. If you need any kind of information, please don't hesitate. Stop by, drop a note, say hello. My name is Paolo Ciccone. I'll see you in the next video.